Okay, today we're going to take a look at multiplication. We've been doing a lot of work with addition and subtraction, so hopefully this is easy for you. Let's start by defining multiplication. We usually think of multiplication as groups of, okay, or repeated addition. I think for our purposes, groups of is going to be the easiest way to remember, what multiplication is about. To understand multiplication of integers, it is helpful to also think of the negative sign as meaning the opposite. We've been talking about that a lot. So remember, when you see -3, you can also think of that as the opposite of 3. Right, explain what 2 parentheses 4. Remember, this means multiply, so in terms of multiplication, this would be 2 groups of 4. And if we were to graph that on a number line, we would show here's one group of 4, and then here's a second group of 4. So we're showing 2 groups of 4, and you can see that that would equal 8. Okay, let's look at the second example. Now they want us to explain what 2 times -4 means. That's very similar. It would be 2 groups of -4. If we were to graph that on the number line, we want to have 2 groups of -4. So this time there's one group, and then we're going to go down another group of -4. 2 times -4, you can see here, equals -8. Okay, last example says explain what -2 times 4 means. This time we're going to use that little negative sign to mean the opposite of 2 times 4. So the opposite of 2 times 4, I'm going to use a highlighter here to show you. Here's 2 times 4, right? But we want the opposite of that. So the opposite of that is going to be this. It's almost like a mirror image. If I could fold that number line in half, you can see that it would, if I folded it in half, I would have the opposite of that. So the opposite of 2 times 4, or -2 times 4, is also -8. Okay, let's look at the other page, or the back. Okay, this one gets a little tricky. -2 times -4, what that means is the opposite So again, we're using that little negative sign to mean opposite. It's the opposite of 2 groups of -4. That's tricky. Okay, so be careful. This is the opposite of 2 groups of -4. So I'm going to show you 2 groups of -4 first. There's 2 groups of -4, but I want the opposite of that. So again, if I think of a mirror image, if I folded that over, I would have 2 groups. It would look like this. So negative 2 times negative 4, or the opposite of 2, groups of negative 4, is actually positive 8. You can see it ends up here at 8. Okay, I'm going to have you give it a try. There are 4 examples for you to try. What you can do is pause the video right here, and then when you're finished, you can either watch them one at a time and pause it again, or just watch them all the way through to check your answers. Good luck. Okay, here's your examples, 3 groups of 2. So here's 1 group of 2, 2 groups of 2, 3 groups of 2 is 6. And you probably already know that 3 times 2 is 6, but that's just to help you understand the number lines so we can do all the negative ones. Okay, number 2 is 2 groups of negative 3. So here's 1 group of negative 3. And then I have to go 1, 2, 3. I have to do another group of negative 3, which gives me negative 6. Okay, number 3, the opposite of 5 groups of 2. So I'm going to use my highlighter here to do 5 groups of 2 this way. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. You know what 5 groups of 2 is, that's 10, but I want the opposite of that. So imagine folding that in half. We'd be going this way. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So that equals negative 10. Okay, last one. This is the opposite of 2 groups of negative 3. So I'm going to start with the highlighter. Here's 2 groups of negative 3. There's 1 group. There's 2 groups. But they want the opposite of that. So the opposite of 2 groups of negative 3 would be 2 groups of positive 3, which is equal to 6.